Saturday afternoon here in the greater New York City area. It's a beautiful afternoon to play golf. If you happen to be in Long Island, or if you are in Teaneck, New Jersey, or wherever you might be, where the weather is good enough to play 9 holes or 18 holes and do some shopping and listening to podcasts when you're done with all of that. So just enjoy the weather while you can. And I want to say a congratulations to all of my students performing in recitals this weekend. Recitals started in New York this weekend, and so my students are going to be looking forward to the New York recital and then New Jersey, which will be coming up. I am very proud of your progress. Look at how far you've come. Also, a special shout out to our featured student, Jess. That's all coming up next on CMajor before the show. And thank you so much for listening. I'm CMajor. When we left off last weekend, we spoke about expanding your chords. This week is a continuation of this by including rhythms. We'll use our virtual keyboard and piano today. So if you have one of those, get that out. If you happen to be using a mobile device that has one, or if you have a device on your laptop, then just use it along with us. We're talking about 2-beat rhythms. We're talking about 3-beat rhythms. In some cases, you may even be able to play a 4-beat rhythm. But I try to tie in this show with what we're going to be doing the next day. So if you know anything about CMajor before the show, you know that we tie it in closely to the CMajor radio show, which is about writing down music. So over here, we make it possible for you to play by chords, play by ear, rote learning basically, R-O-T-E, rote learning. And then on the other side of things, on the B side of things, if you will, we will talk about how to write this down, put a visual to what you've been doing. So what do I mean when I say 2-beat rhythm? Well, in more advanced terms, you may use the word duple. So for instance, 2/4 time is considered simple duple time. 3/4 time is simple triple time, and then quadruple time would be 4/4 is simple quadruple time. And so we can talk about compound time as well. I'm going to say a little bit more about that because sometimes you can use those 2, 3, or 4-beat rhythms to play those same rhythms in another time signature, such as 6/8. So it can be a little confusing if we use language like that over here, but just know we will be putting that on a grand staff for you to take a look at on tomorrow's podcast over at the CMajor radio show. So please feel free to join us on Sunday afternoon because we're aiming to reach families that want to have the discussions about music making that we're hoping to inspire by bringing it up here on the podcast. So again, thank you so much for listening. So let me just pull up this virtual keyboard. And by the way, I grappled with getting something totally outrageous today, which would not have been good for demonstrating 2 and 3-beat rhythms the way that I intend to demonstrate that. But I thought about getting my hands on a monotron. Does anybody know anything about that? It's where you can try out different waveforms and see what type of sounds you can produce. And a lot of people are excited about the monotron. I just recall some of my coworkers when I worked in music retail, they were just really enthused by the monotron, just a little handheld analog synthesizer. But I don't think that would be appropriate for teaching piano lessons. I think that's appropriate for coming up with your own original sounds and just playing around with sounds and having fun. But you know what? I'm thinking about featuring it on one of our podcast episodes. I just have to figure out which one that would be. Okay, so now I'm pulling up. I have my virtual keyboard that I want to pull up. So if you have yours, pull yours up too. And if you don't have one, if you happen to have just a paper illustration of a keyboard, that may work for you as well. But what I'm aiming to do is to see for the first time if I can play a rhythm on this virtual keyboard. So here I am. You may hear me sound a little bit more far away, but bear with me. So let's see if I can make this happen here. If I can get my music to stop for a second. And then I'll be able to play the sound on the keyboard that I want to produce. Okay, so let me just hit stop on that. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now let me go back to my controls here. Let's see if I can pull that up. Okay, there we go. Alright, so I have this window here. Okay, I think we're getting some audio. Okay, so hopefully you can hear that. Let me see if I can increase the audio on that. So hopefully you can hear me and you can hear the piano as well. But I am doing some musical typing again on my keyboard, on my computer keyboard, using the grand piano on stage sound. Okay, and that's on a C chord. So I may just stay with C. It just really depends on how far I can really play this on this range, because the keyboard that I'm seeing for musical typing is limited, so I don't want to maybe go through all of the keys, but you'll get the idea. Basically, you should be able to go on a C chord and do this, and then shift to an F chord, shift to a G chord, shift to a D chord, an E chord, an A chord, and then go through the minors as well. So that would be your challenge. That would be part of your homework for this week. So stay tuned for that announcement. I am going to be thinking about other things to add to your homework assignment. So see us over at CMajor's Classroom. And by the way, I think I might have said last week, CMajorsClassroom.com. We are CMajorPorter.com now. And so if you see us over there, then that's where the homework will be posted, and then we will have a chance to post it further on social media. By the way, let me encourage you. Everyone can be a hand model. I've used a couple of people that I personally know, as you might have heard me say on the podcast, to model the chords or model hands on a piano, but I'm kind of interested to see you do it. So if you want to interact with us, we have poll everywhere that we're doing over at the CMajor radio show, but we need something here to make it interactive. If you want to take a picture of your hands on the piano playing the things that we do here, saying, hey, this is a picture of my hands playing a C major triad, or this is the rhythm I was able to play, just a picture, and just be encouraged to share that with your friends and family. I think that would be a good thing. I think anybody can be, to use the words Instagrammable. I think that's a term that's come out lately. I don't know if you'll find that in a dictionary, but I think it's exciting to think that you might do something like that and then share with your friends and family. So as you learn here as you go, then just don't be afraid to share that. I had a student, I think, was doing it on either Instagram or Snapchat or something. As soon as he learned something new, he would just go on to share that with his friends and family, which is very exciting. Okay, so let's go back now, get to my keyboard. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm taking a C chord, which is spelled C-E-G. Okay, and this. Okay, so ordinarily what I would have done on a piano, on a real piano, is to play this C as an octave. I'm not going to do that right now, but I can still demonstrate that I'm playing. Okay, so to your ear, your ear, does that sound like a 2-beat, a 3-beat, or a 4-beat chord? Okay, so I know what it sounds like to me. So if I count it, I can go like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. So you hear that? And then if you play it twice in a bar, you go. Then you would just go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and. So you can do that. And then just say 3-beat rhythm times 2, which would give you 6/8 time, which is considered compound duple time. So look up those words. We have a discussion here about the basis of simple and compound time. And then on tomorrow's podcast, we will talk about the notation of that. So just to be really clear about the difference between the two. So there are some other things that I can say that would give you an idea of how to notate something rhythmically, even if you just speak it in rhythm, and then you may be able to hear it. But I'm not going to go into that much detail here because I like to keep it simple here. But let me just tell you the letters of the rhythm. So again, just demonstrating with a C chord right now. So I'm breaking it up. So imagine you were playing a C chord and you expanded that chord, right? Okay, as we were talking about last week. And then you said, okay, let me break this up. So you break it up by playing a C, followed by an E, followed by a G, C at the top, and then back down. G, E, C. And where this becomes a real-time piano lesson in person is if you get with your piano teacher wherever you are in the world and say, show me how to play that. And then any teacher would be happy to show you that. So it's very exciting because it also makes you sound like you know what you're doing at the piano. So there have been some students that have gone on to play this rhythm and accompany themselves on simple tunes, a hymn, a folk tune, a Christmas song, something that was in 6/8 time. They were able to do that. Or they could even stretch it to 9/8 time. So I would say, for extra homework, look up some of those time signatures and just see if you can get a heads up on what we will talk about on tomorrow's podcast. So that's basically it. I wanted to show you that for the 3-beat rhythm. So let me try it again. As a minor. Okay, so you'd be surprised how effective that would be if you just put together a sequence and then came up with your own way of playing that sequence using that particular rhythm. Okay, now what I'm going to try to demonstrate on a podcast is how to play a 2-beat rhythm. So we started off with 3-beat rhythm first. I wasn't sure which one I would start with, but 3-beat rhythm was on my mind first. So now let's see if we can do something in 2 beats, which could probably, again, be doubled, so you could use it as a 4-beat rhythm too, which is still considered simple. If you're talking about 2/4 time, 3/4 time, 4/4 time, please do not say 2/4 time, 3/4 time, 4/4 time, the way you would say for fractions, the use of fractions in mathematics. Just simply say 2/4, 3/4, or 4/4. And then again, just ask your teacher why you're going to say it that way. But I have some students that try to be really funny, and we have a laugh about it. But I don't want them to get confused when they're talking about time signature. But, okay, so now we're going to go to a rhythm. And let's see if I can do it here. Oh, I hit the wrong piano keys on my computer keyboard. Let's see if I can get it here. There we go. this, even though it sounds like 1 and 2 and, I feel more comfortable counting that rhythm in 4/4 time. Okay, so let me try it again. And let me say this, on this podcast, we're not aiming for perfection. We really don't. We just aim for maybe a very clear discussion of what's going on with the music making, and also with some of the recordings too. The recordings that I made for CMajor may or may not have everything in place that you expect to hear, but it's real. Those are songs that I played, and I think that when you're recording, sometimes things come out perfectly the way you wanted them to come out, and then sometimes they just don't, but you still get the meaning across. So that's what we're aiming for here, just to get the meaning across. And, perfection comes later. Perfection comes when it comes. So let me just see if I can play that again. So 1. Okay, 1, right. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that would be a really great rhythm to play on a country song. Uh-oh, I think I just hit something I didn't mean to hit. Let me hit stop here. Okay. And that's the tricky thing about trying to play on a computer keyboard is there's a lot going on the keyboard. So virtually, if you see this, you would just probably laugh and go, okay, how is she really playing like that? But it's fun if you can try it. So the coordination of that. Now, if I were on a grand piano, a real grand piano, meaning the full-bodied grand piano, not the virtual one, on stage, that I would probably spread out a little bit more so that I can play an octave in the left hand and play that same rhythm. It would go really, really well. That 4-beat rhythm would go really, really well on a song like Oh Susanna, which is still a big teaching piece, believe it or not, here in the 21st century. It's still considered one of the top teaching pieces I keep running across in our published methods of today. So something like that, if you're trying to break down the structure of Oh Susanna, I started off with a C chord. Sometimes you see Oh Susanna written in the key of C, and so in my students' method books, you'll see it written in the key of G, and then you'll see what the structure is. So I try to teach both. I try to teach them how to transpose it so that they can play, follow the chord structure and then learn to play this rhythm. Because again, it's just about having fun and to see if it's something that they can do or that they are willing to do. Now you can play this as a 4-beat rhythm or a 2-beat rhythm. Let me see how it works as a 2-beat rhythm. Hold on one second. Thinking about it, a song like Yankee Doodle would go really well with that rhythm as well. And so it just sounds more like a 2/4 time rhythm that you could use on a song like Yankee Doodle. But for me, for Oh Susanna, it sounds like something you would use in 4/4 time. I hope that's clear. If it's not clear, feel free to write, talk to us online. We like to hear from you. I know I have some listeners that are tuning in. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you making the podcast what it is. I mean, this is all for you, and I'm just glad I'm able to find something to share that's helpful. So I'm really happy about that. Now let's see. Do I want to share any more rhythms? I know today's show says rhythms and more rhythms. So far I've just shared 2. But I think what I wanted to do was double up and say, okay, you can use this as a 2-beat rhythm or a 4-beat rhythm. Let me just see if I can come up with one more. Let me just see, because again, I'm limited today by using a computer keyboard to do this. So hold on one second. So that's kind of a 2-beat rhythm or 4-beat rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. see if I can just shift my chord for a second, because you're probably tired of hearing C major. Let me just see if I can switch over to these keys. Okay, so now I'm playing it on an F chord. And because of the visual limitations of this, unless I shift down or up an octave, then I'm pretty limited to the keys that are in front of me. I have 2 black keys, a set of 3 black keys, and another set of 2 black keys, and that's pretty much it. And then I have the white keys. So I am staring at a virtual computer keyboard, and then the way that it's colored, I'm able to see how to turn that computer keyboard into a piano keyboard and then play the chords for you as broken chords. So that's what I mean by broken chords. So again, let me just say congratulations to all of my students performing in recitals in New York and New Jersey this weekend. I'm excited for one student in particular. I'm going to give a shout out to that student in a few moments. But let me say that I am very proud of your progress. Again, look at how far you've come. Also, a special shout out again to our featured student, Jess. And I'm going to say a little bit more about that in a few moments, but I just want to give some applause and cheers. Just amazing. I saw a student today. I was so touched. The student is taking off for the summer because we're at that time of year where students decide, okay, if I'm going to continue for the summer or if I will take off and do other things, play softball, do swimming, do other activities outside, travel, and things like that. But my students were so, I guess, excited about the summer, but at the same time, we knew we had accomplished some things that they really wanted to accomplish. So it was just kind of it's a happy moment, but at the same time, it's just saying, wow, I'm going to miss you because I feel like we did what we set out to do this year. So it was all hugs and lots of well wishes this weekend with some of my students. So I'm just really grateful for you. And thank you all for listening. If you're tuning in, you're listening to C Major Before the Show. I am C Major. And what we did was we left off last weekend because we were talking about expanding our chords. And so this week was a continuation of that by including some rhythms. So we used our virtual keyboard and piano today. We were not at a digital piano today or a real piano. And so I hope that you found something useful to what you're hearing so far. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is start my music up because what I want to do is give some special student shout-outs. And so my first student shout-out is to Jess. And you heard me mention Jess as our featured student, and it's because she really is. If you go right now over to Spreaker, you will see that we posted a recording with her. And so I'm really proud of Jess because we weren't sure where she was going to end up, if we could say it that way, because there was just some uncertainty on her part about which way to go with piano, but it seems like it's all worked out for the best for her. So I'm really proud of Jess. And also, I have special permission today to give a first shout out to Emily. She said that it was okay to say her name on the podcast, and I think she and her family have been listening to the podcast. So shout outs to Jess, and shout outs to Emily, and shout outs to my other students who are going on vacation for the summer. And I think what I'll do in the future is actually get some shout-out cards for future podcasts because, we live in the social media era. You have to be really just aware of how many people are being shouted out, and then at the same time you want to get people's permission so they aren't so surprised. And so far we've been able to get permission for everything that we're doing in terms of the shout outs, and we've been very careful about saying names and then posting the photos of the hand models. They have some idea of when those posts will take place and have given permission in the past and so forth. So anyway, we're just trying to move into another area where we can include more of you. If you want to put your hands on, so to speak, hands on the podcast, then send us a photo, a shared photo to our social media, and we'd be happy to consider putting it up. So shout out again to my students performing in recitals and to their parents for continued support. And I want to give a special shout out to a student learning to play Fairy Lease by level of difficulty. Now I have a lot to say about this because this really took me for a loop. It really did. I had a student a few years back. It was an adult student. And I think I mentioned this on the podcast before, but not within this certain context. I think it was just the element of surprise that went along with the student. Here the student was like an outright beginner, was not schooled in the field of music formally, just a pure recreational student that had access to a real piano in their home. And yet the student expected a teacher to take him from square one to like square 121 in a year. And, you know, any teacher that's been faced with that, you just think to yourself, why? What makes you think that we can get that far in a year? I mean, someone who want you to take them from, now, if you're a piano teacher and listen to this, listen closely, because imagine you have a student that wants you to take them from playing, I don't know if it was Ode to Joy or some other folk tune, but a basic folk tune, go from that to playing something by Rachmaninoff at the level of maybe the Rack 3 in a year. And I just thought, wow, you know, I really don't understand the logic behind that. Why would you think you could progress that much technically? That's high level technical difficulty. I mean, I think I heard someone playing the Bartók concerto, which is considered like one of the hardest piano concertos of our time. And just imagine you have a student that, you know, has that kind of bucket list going on and saying, you know what, I must learn to play, you know, piano at that range, starting with the very basic, and then within 6 to 12 months, I want to be playing at concert level or concerto level. I really didn't understand the request until today. And now I understand. You know, there's a hymn that says we'll understand it better by and by. And it's a good hymn because it really does make you stop and wonder, with some wisdom and some time, things will really reveal itself. And that's what happened today. So I had a student, and I am shouting him out because he really is making progress. And I think the reason why he's making really good progress is because he already plays another instrument, which also helps. So if you already play another instrument, such as a wind instrument, such as, you know, oboe or saxophone or clarinet, you're already reading in one clef, and then you take piano lessons to learn bass clef, then it really does help. I think it helps your overall keyboard musicianship, as we did see with Jess. She started off playing trumpet, and now she's doing well with keyboard. So, but this student has a special request to learn to play the music of Beethoven and then advance in level of difficulty as he goes. And mind you, this student has been taking lessons for less than 3 months. So to say, okay, I want to play one of the beginner teaching pieces by Beethoven or late elementary pieces by Beethoven, but I want to start with the baby version, meaning the simplest arrangement of that, and then graduate to the next level version of that, intermediate. And then my goal is to play the authentic version of that piece. So I have to give that student a shout out because I thought, what would make that student think he could play at that level of difficulty within 6 months? And it was because he's thinking of it as gaming. So he's treating it like you start at one basic level and then you go to the highest level possible, but with that one particular piece. And it's so not the way that pianists think when it comes to learning, and it's so not the way that piano teachers teach. At least when I was growing up, they just didn't teach that way. They didn't say, okay, now that you've mastered the baby version of fill in the blank, okay, let's go to the next level version of this, and then just keep learning that one song as a goal. I think as a pianist, we think of, okay, what are the different levels of learning that can take place within a year, and then gradually move into the next level. But all the while, you're including different literature, not just sticking with one particular song. You know, that's just a different way of thinking. But it just made me realize, okay, this is a gaming approach. And so I think that's why you have some applications out there that have been really successful at that, you know, just awarding people for the different levels that they can get to and just really encouraging them to aim for that level. Just a different way of thinking. But I had to admire that student. So that student really challenged me to say, you know what? This is how it could be done. You're a little bit ahead of the technique for doing something like this, because remember, we still haven't talked about second, third, fourth, and fifth inversions yet. Second, third, fourth, fifth intervals yet. And we haven't even talked about chord inversions. We haven't even talked about 1, 4, 5, 7. So, I don't know, but I still want to give a shout out to that student. A student who's treating piano lessons like gaming, which is how students sometimes think they should or can learn the piano. So, shout out to all those students with that mindset. And I hope it doesn't sound like I'm judging you. And I hope it doesn't sound like I'm quote-unquote grumpy about it. Because that's the last thing I want to appear is grumpy on a podcast. I mean, who wants to hear that? But it's just so baffling to me. But at the same time, I got to respect the enthusiasm for learning. Now, here's where I want to shift gears for a moment. Go back to Jessica Gibson. We did do the follow-up interview, and what I like to do now is stop the music and go to the website so I can try to play a clip of that. I hope I can do it. Sometimes, you know, the audio is a little bit funny when you try to play things that should be available differently. But I'm going to see if I can do it for you now. And then just encourage you to listen to that. So it's the follow-up interview with Jessica Gibson. And I think you are in for a treat if you happen to listen to it. And really appreciate what she has done with her progress. And then I'll say a little bit more after I've played a little bit. And it's really going to be a short clip. Okay, so let me go now to that area and just see if it comes through. Okay, so we are on our podcast live right now, Rhythms and More Rhythms. We started broadcasting 36 minutes ago, but prior to that, we did publish an episode, a special episode, follow-up with Jess, and that episode is really short. It's less than 10 minutes long, so if you can afford the time, listen to that.
And then the other stuff was just like, okay, like I got through it.
Okay. Well, you are listening to CMajor for the show. We're doing our follow-up podcast episode with college student Jess. Jessica. Everybody applaud for that. Cheers. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
Sounds like you've had an amazing year with piano lessons. And so the purpose of today's podcast is for you to show off your progress with Minuet in G major by the famous Bach from the notebook for Anna Magdalena. And so we want to hear how you've come along with it. So whenever you're ready to start. Okay, very nice. Cheers and applause again. Okay. Awesome. So that's a clip of the interview, so hopefully it wasn't too distorted if you were listening. But we wanted to turn it up to make sure you could hear. But definitely tune into that and let us know what you think. Another special episode, follow up with Jess. And it's less than 10 minutes. We published it today. And then, of course, she's in on everything. And I think what you'll hear is a special treat because she really is enthusiastic about playing the piano, coming from the standpoint of being a professional trumpeter, and has also talked about some of her goals going forward for piano lessons. So I'm very excited for her. So shout out again to Jess. She's very courageous, very brave. I can't really say enough about her, really. And so what I want to do now is see if I can, let's see if I can pull up something else on the computer. While I'm thinking about what I'm going to pull up, let me just say thank you again to our new listeners, our subscribers, those who are tuning in. I'm running into people and they're saying, hey, now you have another follower. And I was like, wow, just like that. All I had to do was just have a conversation and tell people, hey, I teach piano lessons. I'm trying to do that on a podcast. And they're like, oh, where is it? Oh, I see it. Oh, now you have me listening too. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you. And if you will be listening next week's going to be a funny weekend because it's going to be a combination of Memorial Day weekend and then other things that are going on with recitals. But next week, we are going to be talking about flat chords. So tune in for that. We like to do a play on words here just for fun. We're calling them reduced flat chords. I'll say more about that next time, but if you think that's funny, listen in next weekend to find out more. And actually next week, because we'll do a promo as well to find out more about why we're calling them that. So that's a little bit of a hint for that show. And then thank you again for listening to our Doubly Smoking Hot Rhythms. We hope you got something from today's podcast, and we do invite you to tune in again next week. Also, you are invited to stop by CMajor's classroom. There is no tuition, no sign-up fee, nothing you have to pay for to go over to CMajor's classroom. It's free. It's online for you. We will post this week's homework. So tune in for that. What will the homework be? The homework will probably be to have you see if you can play 2-beat and 3-beat and 4-beat rhythms on your own using your own chord structure. And then we invite you to tune in tomorrow for the CMajor radio show. And so, you know what? And that's what I wanted to pull up. I wanted to pull up an announcement that I've been playing over there, that I've started playing over there, and see if you can hear it here too, so you'll know what you'll be listening for. And, I appreciate those who are following us around the internet, that you listen to those things and then all of a sudden you respond in your own way. So thank you for checking us out. But it's just the start of me trying to say, you know what, I want to start asking for what we're looking to do in communities around the greater New York City area and a little bit beyond. So if you can, just listen to this for one moment. Hi, this is CMajor. I'm hosting a free piano event in select areas starting this summer. But here's a catch. You have to invite me to your location. That's right. Starting this summer, I'm available to tour introductory piano lessons. Contact me at CMajor's Classroom over at CMajorPorter.com for details and arrangements. Thanks, and see you soon. Okay, and then it plays itself out, using our signature tune, Gut Feeling, of course. And so, again, that was another example. I said, the way Gut Feeling was recorded, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfectly written. It wasn't perfectly recorded. But we did get the meaning of the song out, and it was acknowledged by some people that were able to listen and give some really helpful feedback for that song. But I don't think it's over yet. I think there are some things that we can do with Gut Feeling, but stay tuned for that. I have some things in mind actually involving Jess, because I found out that she is proficient in Sibelius, something that we're looking to do over at the CMajor radio show. So if you happen to have your own notation software, it could be Finale, it could be Sibelius, it could be something else, bring that to tomorrow's podcast, because we are looking for ways to step into the modern times, stepping away from pencil and paper. But if you want to use pencil and paper, you're invited to use pencil and paper. But just know that Sibelius for me wasn't intuitive, and so it's kind of a little bit of a learning curve for me. But I'm aiming to become proficient at Sibelius too. So anybody that wants to reach out to us on that, and we will use our friends and our resources, friends to the CMajor radio show, who can help us with that. Have a nice weekend. I hope the weather stays sunny enough for you to get out and play some of your favorite sports. If you have been busy playing or watching golf in the greater New York City area, including northern New Jersey, South Jersey, or Long Island, just please feel free to download this podcast episode on demand when you're done playing golf. And next weekend, again, is Memorial Day weekend. We might be able to feature some patriotic songs. I'm not sure if we're going to do that, but something as simple as the Battle Hymn of Republic, I think that's still allowed to be played. The Star Spangled Banner, My Country 'Tis of Thee, I don't know. It's so hard to tell what's politically correct now and what's not. But all I know is from a teaching standpoint, these songs make really great teaching pieces for showing you how to put chords together and how to play in certain keys. So that's what we're aiming to use these things for. So just hang on for that. I think I will make an announcement about whether or not we will use patriotic songs in next week's podcast as we talk to you about how to play flat chords. And when we say reduce flat chords, again, we're going to tell you about that play on words next week. So, for instance, how would you play the Star Spangled Banner by Chords in the key of A flat? So, see you all tomorrow afternoon, hopefully on the C Major radio show, for writing down everything we learned today on C Major Before the Show. See you all next week on C Major Before the Show, and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for listening.